big games, Tupelo, Brandon, West Point, Louisville, Starkville, Oak Grove, and many more coming up. Blake, what you thinking?
I mean, how can Tupelo Brandon not be the biggest game, Trellis? I mean, come on. That's the rematch of the title game last year.
Yeah,
And I think everyone thinks both are better this year.
yeah,
Fair enough.
fair enough.
Because usually when we have a title game, right, like whether it was Oak Grove and Starkville years past or Brandon, Starkville, like it feels like sometimes the team isn't as good the next year because, you graduate a lot of those seniors. But
Yeah.
this time, when we talk about Tupelo Brandon week one, both these teams are better this year.
100%, and we saw that in their Jamboree matchups, in their preseason matchups. Tupelo dominating Columbus 34-0 in their time of play. Brandon dominating Warren Central, and that was big because if you think about it, Warren Central's a top 10 team in the state of what we're thinking going in, a front runner for 6A. So to dominate like that, both teams, Brandon and Tupelo, looking pretty good heading into the opening week.
Yeah, and we're getting information that possibly one of Tupelo's best players is suspended. I'm not going to say the name here because we're just not going to do that to a kid under 18 because we just feel like that's the respectful thing to do. But one of their best players is not going to be playing for this early part of the season. So does that help Brandon out? And I saw some of that Warren Central Brandon game that you're talking about. I mean, Tyson Robinson is so good, and we hear that
Yeah,
all the time.
he is.
This kid's a top recruit. This kid's a top recruit. This kid, putting up big numbers, 2,000 rushing yards, this and this and that, and then you go see it, and you're like, wait, I feel like they even undersold him a little bit.
No, Tyson Robinson was absolutely dominant as well. I mean, listen, Slade and Shaq look very good too at quarterback. He looks like he's able to manage that game very well. I like the pace of the offense. The offense looked very high powered and looked like they're sliding right on into Coach Pogue's system.
Yeah, it's one of those things because I thought Sam Williams was a really good coach, but I mean, Lance Pope's done it at the highest level in the state. Matter of fact, he's the only coach with a national championship. Whether you want to say that, he came into it or not, the reality is he was the coach when that happened, and he had to coach him well that season. So I think it's really interesting, and it's one of those things where, people are going to overreact to the game. The winner of the game is going to be the title favorite for the rest of the year, correct?
Correct, absolutely.
Right, right. So it's going to be one of those things. Let's say Brandon wins the game. Brandon may lose one later in the year, but we're going to sit here and we're going to go, well, Brandon's the favorite. Or Tupelo's going to win this game, and we're going to be like, well, even if they lose a game late, well, they're the reigning champs. They beat Brandon. They're the overwhelming favorites. However, this is week one, and I've seen things change over the years, especially at the highest level. The smaller the level, the more I think that the early weeks are more indicative of the later weeks. When it comes to the highest level, it just doesn't feel that way sometimes. That teams are allowed to get better later. We think about Starkville when they won the championship a few years back. They were close to not making the playoffs. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden they found that groove and boom, they started blowing teams out. So I don't want to overreact to this game, but how can you not? It's 1 versus 2.
And the thing is too is that the game's going to be in Brandon. Okay, so Brandon will be able to have that kind of home field advantage. What is your thought on that? How much of an advantage is that going to be for Brandon? I think it's going to be pretty big.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, anytime you play at home, especially at Brandon, we talked about some of the great stadiums, right? I mean, Brandon's up there, and the fans are going to be out. And Tupelo, even though it's 3 hours and 15 minutes away or so, they're gonna travel. It's week one. You're excited, and you know what? Also, the weather's going to be great. We're talking about 13 degrees, possibly lower than normal temperatures this weekend than what it normally is. 13 degrees. I mean, come on. August 29th. I mean, that's pretty good to talk about. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a slight advantage. If we're making picks, I do think Tupelo's going to win, even with that suspended player and it being in Brandon, because I just think that roster's so good. But if you're just a fan of high school football, J.J. Hill, Tyson Robinson, these two guys, running backs, which is the most important position in high school football, it just is the running back, and you got them on both sides. That's prime time. That's prime time for the South. Forget Mississippi. That's prime time for the South.
Yeah, we're getting started with a bang with Tupelo and Brandon. So we're excited about talking about that. Also, we got West Point Louisville, which is always a good one. Obviously, they started last season off playing each other as well. Louisville won that ball game 15-14 last year. Both teams had very good seasons. West Point is coming off a state championship in 5A, while Louisville lost by 1 point in
First time ever they
this.
lost a state championship game.
Yeah. So lost by 1 point to Poplarville last year. So you know Louisville's going to come in hungry. What are your thoughts, Blake, on West Point and Louisville?
First off, when you grow up in the Golden Triangle and those teams all play each other, which I love because, we think about a lot of other regions. You play your region, right, early in the season and non preseason. As in, let's say Jackson Public School, you have different levels of Jackson Public School, 5A, 6A, 4A, right? They're going to play each other. Why? It makes sense, right, to play your region.
Yeah.
Imagine your region being the Golden Triangle. And
Yeah.
those are the games you have to start off with. I mean, these teams, I love it because sometimes they're not undefeated always. Now, sometimes they are. We've had some great West Point teams like 2017, undefeated, all that. But, yeah, you're going to drop some games early because think about the schedule, the non conference that these teams, it's why they're so good, though. Because they play these games and they're willing to take losses. When it comes to Louisville, West Point, I actually think that West Point actually is going to win this game. I think Louisville is extremely good this year. I have them as the favorite in 4A. However, I just think West Point. I hate to say this, but it felt like last year, even though they won, there was some more in the tank. And I think, with Coach Morgan, now being a longer tenure coach going after Chris Chambliss, that was there forever, they're going to be more into his mold of football. Not that it's going to be that far off of what West Point is always like, but I think they're going to be more connected with Coach Morgan. So I think that they win this game. However, if Louisville won, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, come on. I mean, that's a top tier program. That's the best big program in the school size sense that they can compete with them on any given week. Would Louisville win 7A if they had to play the whole schedule? Probably not. Just because of the kid size, at some point, kids are going to get nicked up. Things are going to change. It's hard week in and week out. But on any given week, Louisville could go play with anyone.
And the thing is, West Point. I have West Point winning that game as well, but barely. I think it's going to be a very good game. And then also another thing too is in the first game of the season, you have the little kinks in the system that you have to get tight, and who gets it tight first in the first game, who's able to adjust to playing football again in the first game. That's a big thing as well.
Yeah, and I guess if you see it that way, I guess Louisville should have the advantage with a coach that's been there for as long, Tyrone Shorter, that's been there as long, right? So if we're talking about who's more likely early season to look like the traditional West Point, the traditional Louisville, well, it's going to be the one that's had the coach for a lot longer, right? I mean, that would be my thought. So maybe you kind of getting me flipping back and forth. I mean, like I said, I'm taking West Point, and I'm not. If Louisville won, I mean, those Wildcats, if they won, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they're always going to have a great defense. You talk about a great running back, Zayden Jernigan on Rivals, #1 rated running back in the sophomore class as of right now in the whole class, a whole nation. Zayden Jernigan. I
Yeah.
mean, so we're talking about but he's a sophomore. He's a sophomore, so we pump the brakes. I mean, he's one of the best players in the state, but he's still a sophomore. But the reality is, you do still have that type of athlete.
Yeah, and then looking at Starkville and Oak Grove, two 7A opponents playing in a non-region game. Starkville from the north, Oak Grove from the south. Listen, Starkville, you talked about it last week, that Starkville has an incoming quarterback that's going to be ready to play. A great quarterback there. They've got Coach Carr coming from Clinton up to Starkville to head coach the Yellow Jackets up there. But Oak Grove, they've got a good team. And we expect Oak Grove to be a good team. I have Oak Grove winning this ball game barely. But what say you, Blake?
Yeah, this is the first one we disagree on, but I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I wouldn't be. I mean, these are great games, so I'm not going to say I wouldn't be surprised. If you like quarterback play, this is the one. This is the game in the state. If you like quarterback play, we talked about the running back play, Tupelo, Brandon, even West Point, Louisville. We talked about great running back play. If you want to see great quarterback play, this is the one with Keelan Hall and Kingston over at Starkville. These are two of the best three quarterbacks at that level, if not the whole state. I mean, these are two of the top five. Let's go with that, right? And it's good. It should be high powered. I told you that I mean, we're going to get into this topic, and they're one in my five sneakiest teams. If someone told me, hey, you can't pick Tupelo to win the whole thing, then I'm taking Starkville. I'm not taking Brandon first. I'm taking Starkville. I think that team is going to be so good. They are the sneakiest team, and it's crazy. How could Starkville be sneaky? How could that possibly be a case? When you think about how
Yeah, that's
much
right.
they've won and what they've been traditionally, how could they be sneaky? But they are.